Welcome back to the weekly news roundup. This is the business edition and Sillyville. So get ready for this grouping of crazy nonsense. You can catch the show live Fridays 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. First, we have an update. So, as if the first case was not ridiculous enough, Apple, if you remember, sued Prepear because they were concerned that someone might see the Prepear logo, which you can see there on the screen, and confuse it for the Apple logo. Who in the world thought that this would possibly happen isn't the case. Now, before I scroll down and show you guys the new logo, I got to tell you a little bit about what happened. There's a big lawsuit going back and forth, and then they finally got together, and the judge said, hey, is there anything you guys can do to work it out? So Apple and Prepear came up with a solution. Prepear changed their logo so that it will no longer be confused with Apple's logo. So they changed that little leaf thing to a leaf with a square line. This is the only thing that changed. Apple's okay with this one. Somebody just made a lot of money. Apple probably didn't lose anything. Prepear probably had to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars in attorney fees for Apple to be happy with this. I think Apple should probably pay every bit of their lawsuits times 1,000. Nobody's going to confuse this for the Apple logo. This is what the line says down here. Following the initial trademark opposition, Super Healthy Kids, Prepear's parent company, launched a petition in an attempt to persuade Apple to drop its opposition, targeting small businesses that was trying to protect its logo. The petition gained over 250,000 signatures. Apple was also widely derided by media sites and fans for going after Prepear's logo. Back in December, filings with the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office Trial and Appeal Board requested the trial proceedings be suspended for 30 days as Prepear and Apple were actively engaged in negotiations for the settlement. Prepear's CEO says the trademark issue has now been amicably resolved and that Prepear is happy with the outcome. I would not be happy with the outcome until Apple paid me 10 times what I had to pay in lawyers for this. That's what they did. For the love. Maybe we need to start talking about breaking up Apple. They're clearly too powerful. All right, and now we have some proposed Section 230 rewrite laws that a whole lot of people are going, what are you doing? I think it was just probably edited by Biden himself because it appears to be the ramblings of a demented person. And not to say he's crazy, it's just that he clearly has dementia. I don't know what I'm doing here. Let's just cross stuff out and things. And so basically, they're just adding a few extra laws. This is the way it currently reads. No provider or user of an interactive computer service shall be treated as the publisher or speaker of any information provided by another information content provider. This is what they're going to change it to. No provider or user of an interactive computer service shall be treated as the publisher or speaker of any speech. You type stuff, you don't say things through it. Through any speech provided by another information content provider, except to the extent the provider or user has accepted payment to make the speech available on, in whole or in part, created or funded the creation of the speech. Basically, if you run an ad, that also is that. So, and if I go and take out an ad and I run an ad and it's a horrible ad that causes you to go do something illegal or something, then the platform can be held liable for that because they got money for it. That's basically what it is. The problem is that nearly every law professor and person that seems to have functioning brain cells seems to have serious objections. Unfortunately, as written, this would devastate every part of the open internet and cause more collateral damage to online speech, says Ron Wyden. Creating liability for all commercial relationships would cause web hosts, cloud storage providers, and even paid email services to purge their networks. So, you're paying us to host the site, therefore we're liable, so we're going to kick it off. That's what he's saying. A law professor, Jeff Kosef, literally wrote the book on Section 230, had similar misgivings. The bill is well-intentioned, but the drafting lacks precisions, and court could read as removing Section 230 protections from nearly every platform on the internet. And he wrote on Twitter, a good lawyer could argue that a very wide range of arguments constitute the acceptance of payment to make speech available. Fight for the Future's director worried about the definition of payment in the bill as being too broad. As far as I can tell, the bill as written would essentially destroy Bandcamp, Patreon, Wikipedia, Craigslist, Etsy, and individual musician or artist or nonprofit online sellers with a store on their website, crowdfunding platforms, etc. He wrote, it is indeed a mess. And then there's a whole lot of other ones, and basically this would kind of kill it. So I can't tell. It's the wind has shifted directions. I don't know. I don't even know what people's thoughts are one way or the other on what 230 is or should be. I think certainly some clarifications are in order, but keeping it mostly intact is a good thing for the internet. Windows 10 has had more problems lately. They're causing more problems than they fix. I think they introduced 5 bugs in fixing the 2 in the last update. So if they keep on going by this, it's just going to be one giant cockroach. Just spray it with a can of Raid and switch to Linux. I mean, really. Broken games, apps, blue screen of death. Awesome work, Microsoft. That's right. This guy's like, oh, there's another update. No, I couldn't stop it. We haven't heard much about Microsoft releasing Windows 10 patches that cause more problems than they fixed recently, but not wanting to abandon one of the most defining practices. A new update from Windows 10 is reportedly stopping some games from running. Users are also finding the update fails to install most of the time. So it is KB4598291 apparently is having a lot of issues. This is supposed to fix the Alt-Tab app switcher and Windows Credential Manager, but it seems to fail most of the time, and when you do finally get it to run, it kills things like World of Warcraft and other direct play-based games. How exciting. Right now, let's see, as of the time of the article, it was optional, but will automatically roll out, and of course, part of this caused a lot of other issues. There's reports other recent updates. So KB4598299, KB4598301 have caused issues with some users, including blue screen of death, app crashes, and more. Visual Studio has been impacted with Microsoft writing the applications form. A fix for this issue has been internally implemented. It's being prepared for release. So there we have it, guys. Windows is still killing your stuff. How exciting. Google and Facebook tell SCOTUS it should be harder for you to sue them. This is probably a little bit more clickbaity than that. It doesn't have to do as much with individual suits, but they're trying to shore up what a class is in the terms of class action lawsuits. So in other words, they're just trying to prevent class action lawsuits here. Not, Google does one really, really bad thing and hurts one person really, really bad. They're not doing anything to prevent that one person from bringing a lawsuit. But what they are trying to do is they're trying to say that sometimes these classes are so different, you can't possibly create a class action lawsuit around what they are doing. So this centers around the TransUnion versus Ramirez. So in this case here, the person's name sounded like a person whose name was on a totally unconstitutional federal do not call list. And so a car dealership would not sell him a car because TransUnion flagged him as a psycho. And he says, I'm not a psycho. And this caused damage. And so he sued TransUnion. And then they put together a class action lawsuit alleging that over 8,000 people had similar markings on their TransUnion accounts, but the problem is that 8,000 people did not attempt to buy a car and thus were wronged by this. And so what we had here is, in this case, they tried to come back and look at this case and go, but these guys didn't try and buy a car, so they weren't negatively impacted, so now they have to be excluded from the class. That's what Google and Facebook and others are trying to do, is they're trying to narrow down what defines a class so much to make class action lawsuits illegal. Good luck. I hope that it doesn't succeed. And North Dakota will now have a bill to force Apple to have alternative app stores. So this is actually pretty good because, of course, if it goes into North Dakota, Apple has to decide to cut off those 5 people who use Apple in North Dakota, or if they're actually going to have a functional system. But having multiple different platforms, you're in North Dakota, therefore you get this version of the Apple phone, is not particularly viable. This, though, is the one thing that Apple needs to do in order to get out of that murky area of antitrust. Because as of right now, you have no options to put an app on your phone, especially since there was a complicated way to sideload apps, but they have closed that loophole in recent updates. The problem is, if I want to download some other application and install it on my phone, I paid over $1,000 for this stupid piece of crap. I should be allowed to do with it what I want. Enter the points here on right to repair. So with this being said, what we're starting to see here is if I were to get an Apple phone and say, I want to run, what was the game? Fortnite, I guess, was kicked off of Apple, I think. If I wanted to run this on my Apple phone, I should have a path to sideload on Apple. Now, I'm not saying it has to be super user-friendly. I'm not saying it has to be easy. I'm not saying it has to be devoid of warning signs. I'm not saying it can't void your warranty. What I am saying is it should be possible because I have purchased this device, and if I want to accept the risks of doing such things, then that should be my own personal prerogative. And so this one bill in little North Dakota, we'll see where that goes. And if that passes, it'll be interesting to see how Apple responds. Maybe they'll just try and buy North Dakota. I don't know. Our last article today. In Nevada, a new bill in the state is going to possibly allow tech companies to create local governments. History is repeating itself because this actually happened back at the turn of last century, and it was a really bad thing. So these guys, I have no earthly idea what in the world they're thinking, but apparently they're thinking it. And so if you've never been out west, in a few states out west, there are massive swaths of land with nothing. I used to live in some of these states, and I drove through all of them. I mean, if you go from Utah to California across I-80, you cross East Wendover, Elko, and Sparks/Reno. There might be one other little town in there. Other than that, you have about 200 miles of rattlesnakes, desert, and cacti, and sage. And so that's really what the landscape looks like out there. And so the problem they have in states like that is you get outside of a city center and you want to do something, it becomes very hard to figure out who is doing the laws. And so in Nevada, they're proposing a bill that if a big tech company wants to come out and buy a bunch of land in the middle of Nevada and start setting up a smart city, then they can create their own local government. The problem is this type of thing has been tried in the past with mining towns. It's what leads to ghost towns scattered all around the West. And again, I've been to some of those ghost towns. They'd come in, they'd set up a store. They would even, in some more severe cases, they would pay you in the town's currency. You had to shop at the town's general store. You had to engage in services in the town setting. And it was all run by the giant company that owns and set up the town. They owned the buildings, they owned the houses, they owned the jobs, they owned the store. And if you did something wrong, it's not only are you fired, but you're fired, you're evicted, and you have nothing because your currency doesn't mean anything outside of these little towns. If that's the type of thing we're starting to see, history has indeed wrinkled itself and we are going back into a very bad era. But the way 2020 and 2021's going, I'm not surprised. That's probably going to happen. So anyway, these guys are basically targeting the companies that are wanting to make smart cities. So hey, let's go ahead and start with a smart city. And this first zone is actually set up just to the east of Sparks, Nevada. And so in this area, we want to get out there, and they say, well, we're going to buy up all this land that otherwise you guys are paying for. We're going to pay some property taxes to the state and to the federal, but you let us do whatever we want on it. The biggest concern I have with this is if this crosses Interstate 80 and I'm crossing through that, am I under this corporate jurisdiction as I drive my car through their town on I-80, or will I only be under this jurisdiction if I jump off there for gas at the smart gas station? And altogether, though, this to me looks kind of like a creepy thing. We don't need companies creating their own individual governments. This is a bad thing. So let me know your thoughts on all that. If you'd like to help support the channel, have a look at my affiliates. Today we're featuring our A2 hosting, which apparently has gone pink for Valentine's Day. You can come on in here to A2 hosting. You can get shared hosting, managed and unmanaged VPS plans. You can get reseller plans, SSL certificates, a variety of different things. Shared hosting as little as $2.50. And dedicated servers as low as about $100, which is actually a good price for dedicated servers, or at least an average price for dedicated servers. So you can find my affiliate link there, tlm.li/A2H. Now let's go ahead and head to Sillyville. First article in Sillyville is partially silly, but partially a little sad, and maybe something that we need to set some laws against. So, of course, it is actually legal to record police officers. In fact, it is not allowed for a police officer to inhibit you recording them in the line of duty so long as you are not interfering with their duty. They are a public servant. So what these police officers got the idea to do in Beverly Hills is they started playing copyright music anytime someone was filming them, which prevents people from live streaming what police are doing, and it prevents them from uploading those videos, because we all know that the copyright claim system is completely screwed up, and those copyright claim guys will take down videos faster than anybody. So someone comes in and starts filming police or anything, they start playing copyrighted music, and the bots will do their job and pull the footage down. This should be grounds for immediate termination, because you are now preventing a citizen from doing the very thing that the Constitution allows them to do. Termination immediately and disbarment from any similar job, period. Because you're literally abusing your power, and abusing your power is against the law. And so that's really what they're doing. Officers Beverly Hills Police Department has seemingly come up with a solution that would deter individuals from live streaming confrontations with police or recording them and later posting them on social media. It's unclear this time if this strategy was concocted by the officer in the spur of the moment, or if it's part of a wide-reaching plan that we might see employed by other departments in the future. So basically, they don't want to be filmed, so he's playing this. There's actually fun ways around this. If you get good enough with music technology, you could actually, you might actually be able to do this with Audacity. If you were to go in, you can do a negative noise filter and pull out all the copyrighted music and leaving behind just the things that are different between the waves. So that would be really fun. But anyway, yeah, this is very silly, but it's also very serious on a constitutional grounds here in the United States. I think any officer doing this should be terminated, hands down. Double masking is here. And CDC says double masking offers more protection against the coronavirus. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention released new researchers on Wednesday that found wearing a cloth mask over a surgical mask offers more protection against the coronavirus, as does tying knots in the ears and loops of the surgical mask. Those findings prompted new guidance on how to improve mask fit at the time of concern over fast spreading variants of the variants of the virus. And here's the problem with this study. First, CDC articles are not peer-reviewed. So they don't go to any form of peer review. And I have a sneaky suspicion, having read this article, that it would probably not pass peer review. You know how they did this? Dummies. They had these dummies, and they put masks on the dummies. And apparently the dummies, they had something here, which I guess is forcing air in and out. And they were utilizing, I forget what they mentioned the chemical in the research article. I forget what it is. They're basically measuring out a chemical. Now, there's so many problems with this. Okay, if you're using a compressed air to shoot out the chemical, you're probably pushing this chemical out through the mask at 1,000 times what a person can exhale. Secondly, masks are still not shown in any scientific study to be preventative against transmission of diseases in either a medical scenario or in a community setting. 2017 study, the cloth mask group had higher infection rates than the control group. 2017 study. The only study we have in COVID era looking at masks and effectiveness of spreading of COVID was out of Denmark or Holland. No change. It was a difference of 8 in an N of 5,000. There's still no evidence that masks do anything. But when you actually look at the data that we have, those are random control studies. When you actually look at the statistical data that we have, every place where mask mandates are going to affect, cases per capita are higher than places that do not. The reason is you're picking up your mask, you're touching your mask, you're handling your mask, you're now concentrating anything you might have, putting that all over your hands, and then touching doors, and then the next person is touching the door, fiddling with their mask, and basically putting any concentration of anything the previous guy had on his face to breathe in and breathe in and breathe in. One mask hurts you, 2 masks hurts you even more. This study did nothing for science. It wasn't scientific. It wasn't anything more than putting 2 dummies up next to each other with forced air of some chemical compound that they could measure, saying, oh, look, if one of them wore a mask and the other one didn't, it looks like this. And when you actually pull out the data, I wish I pulled the data up. I didn't pull it up. Maybe I'll do a separate video on that. We actually look at the data. It's the type of data where the statistical analysis is so random, it's completely meaningless anyway. That's kind of the breakdown of the article. So because of this, now they're saying multiple face masks, which is like, it doesn't make any sense, guys. There is no science on this. This is not a scientific study in any way, shape, or form. They did not do anything to measure the effectiveness of preventing spreading or any other virus. They're just doing stuff with mannequins. Why? I don't know. But anyway, wear your 2 masks, people. It's going to be 5 next week. Maybe 2 masks, a face shield, and a bag over your head. The bag over your head prevents 100% of any particle being passed, transmitted one way or the other. Just an FYI. And on to Zoom. Zoom starts adding facial effects so we can look like 3-year-olds as we're trying to do our meetings. Why in the world do we need this infantile crap on top of everything else that we are dealing with? Do we really have to come in and put in nice little cool backgrounds? I'm going to get myself with blue eyebrows for my Zoom meeting. Yay! Because I'm 4 years old in my mind. This is insane. Studio Effects beta feature lets you add lip color, eyebrows, and facial hair. Great, that's all I need. Be talking to a kindergartner with a beard. Let's see, there's some background filters. Do we have more than just these? These are lame pictures. Oh, here you go. Here's your eyebrow settings. You can set up your eyebrows. You can set up your beard and mustache. What, no Hitler beard? I want a Hitler beard. You can set your lip color. Ooh, look at that. Look at that. So exciting. Because apparently we have become a group of infantile children. So, yeah. Our last article is of course, the criminal defense kitty. A Zoom filter traps this lawyer as a cat during a live court hearing. So this was shared by the judge. So presumably this little thing recording this hearing or live stream is prohibited. Will be okay. We got the judge over here. I guess that this is one of the lawyers and the other one is a very adorable kitten. And this is just glorious. So let's go ahead and watch this little video clip.
Mr. Ponton, I believe you have a filter turned on in the video settings. You might want to
the eyes.
Take a look.
Can you hear me, Judge?
I can hear you. I think it's a filter.
It is, and I don't know how to remove it. I've got my assistant here. She's trying to, but I'm prepared to go forward with it. I'm here live. I'm not a cat.
I can see that. I think if you click the up arrow next to this.
Okay, so sure, we're supposed to carry on our society with Zoom. Yeah. Let's go ahead and carry on our society on Zoom meetings, people. We have our legal system is incompetent to deal with this. So there we have it. Important Zoom tip. If a child used your computer before you join a virtual hearing, check the Zoom video options. Make sure all filters are off. This kitten made a formal announcement on the case on the 394th. Sound is on. So there we have it, guys. So this is the end result. We're gonna have criminal defense attorneys coming on with pink mustaches soon due to the other stuff, and they won't know how to turn it off because they're like, I don't understand what to do. But whatever, right? Whatever. So anyway, there is our Sillyville today. You can help support the channel. Have a look at our Subscribestar page, subscribestar.com/switchedtolinux. We are on over there if you don't like the Patreon-y type stuff. We also have thinklifemedia.com. Thanks for watching, and we will see you next time. Thank you for watching this video from Switched to Linux. This channel would not be possible without the backing of the program supporters scrolling on the screen now. You can be a supporter at Patreon at patreon.com/TOMM or at thinklifemedia.com. I also want to thank the open source community who creates such excellent software that makes producing this show possible. Please remember to support your software communities. Thank you, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux.